So I believe
Uh-huh.
that consultants that do some kind of differentiation and work
Mm-hmm.
together with AI, they continue to work as consultants because there's the human side, the human experience, but
Mm-hmm.
um, that 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 team, AI and consultants, can make a difference, I believe.
Welcome to Secure and Simple podcast. In this podcast, we demystify cybersecurity governance, compliance with various standards and regulations, and other topics that are of interest for consultants, CISOs, and other cybersecurity professionals. I'm Dejan Kosutic, and I'm the host of Secure and Simple podcast. Today, my guest is Carlos Cruz. He's the founder of consulting company called Metanoia, and also the main ISO 9001 and ISO 14001 expert at Advisera. You might wonder why an independent consultant that deals with quality and environmental management could be interesting for this cybersecurity podcast. And the thing is that Carlos is already 30 years in the consulting business and faces almost the same challenges as consultants for ISO 27001 or NIST cybersecurity framework or SOC 2 or any of these other cybersecurity frameworks. Now, he has performed more than 100 consulting jobs, close to 100 certification audits, more than 200 internal audits, and more than 200 trainings. So this is really an impressive career and something that not many people actually have achieved in their consulting career. So in this episode today, we'll discuss how he managed to become a successful consultant, and you'll be able to learn, firsthand, what are the do's and don'ts when building a consulting business. Welcome to the show, Carlos.
Ah, thank you for having me. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. So basically, you started what, like 30 years ago? You started a consulting business. So, how did actually this consulting business look back then in the 1990s when you started your consulting career?
So it was like this. So I was working as a chemical engineer for 8 years in the chemical industry,
Mm-hmm.
and I had some jobs. I was working at a company. They wanted to implement ISO 9001. I didn't know nothing about ISO 9001. It was 1989. Okay,
Wow.
1989. And then, okay, that we implemented with a lot of difficulties. Then I had another job where, again, to implement ISO 9001. And I said to myself, I like this. And I wanted to, my idea was something like this. I want to be an expert on this. But
Mm-hmm.
for a company, they don't want an expert. They don't need an expert. And I wanted to be an expert in this because I like it. And so what I did was I quit my job and I started. So looking back, it was okay. I had some money in the bank, and I started. Okay, let's see what to do. So what I did was I answered to some newspaper ads
Mm-hmm.
looking for trainers, and I contacted some consulting companies looking for freelancers, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how I started. That's how I started. Then I wrote some books,
Uh-huh.
and then from there I got some customers from there, and I started a blog in 2004, and I got also a lot of customers from there. So
Mm-hmm.
something like that, and then okay, word of mouth,
Okay.
and yeah.
Great. So, what would you say that helped you the most in these very first days of your consulting business? Was this really this training that you did, or anything else that you mentioned in the beginning?
Mm, I think the most important in the beginning was contacting uh, organizations that were looking for some kind of freelancers. Okay, because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
at the time, perhaps perhaps the situation with 27001 is similar to what was at the time with 9001,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
because it was something new. or there was a lot of demand. Now demand for 9001 is not so great
Yeah,
as
yeah.
27001. And I contacted several organizations that perhaps they are looking for a freelancer, consultant
Mm-hmm.
freelancer, because so a freelancer is someone that can start working, providing money for them right now, and they don't have any risk. Or
Mm-hmm.
well, the risk is if it is a lousy consultant, yeah, it's a risk. But if they have job work, okay, they give you work. If they don't have work, they say
Yeah,
goodbye. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and I think it
Okay,
was that.
and you also mentioned that you have started that you started with a blog, that you have written a book. How important were these activities for let's say promoting your consulting business?
Oh, very, very, very important. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
the book. I remember in the 90s, I found a very old from the 60s copy of an article from one of the quality gurus, Mr.
Uh huh.
Joseph Juran. Okay,
Uh huh.
and he wrote an article in the 60s that was something like this. So you want to be a quality control consultant, and the first thing he said was wrote was something like start 3 4 years before and write a book, because when you write a book you are an expert. Okay, and yeah,
So this
and
is all that's
so
needed, right?
yeah. So I wrote a book about so I like I like a lot ISO 9001, but I like even more about linking with strategy, balance
Uh huh.
scorecard, strategy maps.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote a book where I tried to mix the two things, and it was very very successful for my home market. It is very small, but it was very successful. It had 3 editions, so it was
Uh huh.
very successful. And several people contact me that were working for organizations that I consider them as platforms. So um, technological centers,
Mm-hmm.
accounting companies. Accounting is very important because an accounting company, their business really is trust. Okay,
Yeah.
and so their customers, when they have a difficulty, they have something that what is this ISO 9001? Customers are asking me to be ISO 9001 certified. What is this? Can you help me? And they say something like, okay, we know what it is, even if they don't know. We know what it
Mm-hmm.
is. We'll find someone to work with you. And so some of these companies contacted me, and so some of these companies I've been working since 2009. Okay,
Great.
they
And
provide
this came
me
through the book, right? Because you have written
through
the
the
book,
book,
yeah. Okay.
and also through the blog. Yes,
Okay.
it's more or less the same. Yeah, some
So,
same
in
amount.
your experience, when you have written this first book, is it really difficult to write a book? Is it really difficult to find, let's say, a topic for a book?
Uh, I don't find it difficult. Okay, because my first book, so that connection between balance scorecard and ISO 9001, I really got some ideas that I considered that were innovative, and
Mm-hmm.
I already tested them in companies with fantastic results, with
Uh huh.
fantastic results. And so yeah, I have something here that is innovative. No one is speaking about this. Let me, okay. And it's, yeah, I remember, I lost that, but I remember, and I didn't take any picture, but I remember before starting writing the book, I made a mind map of the book with
Mm-hmm.
images, where I made some images and I put in a door in my office at the time. And it was, yeah, it was. Then I wrote another book about implementing ISO 14001, but with a link to strategy again.
Uh huh.
So
Uh huh.
if your business is more like design or innovation, I believe that the focus of your environmental management system shouldn't be like the same as a company that the focus is low cost or low price.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and so
Okay.
yeah, it was something like that. Hmm.
So if understood well, it's important to find, let's say, something that is common, like these standards, but then find something that is specific in your approach to these standards, and then write a book around it, right? Is this the approach that you're taking?
The idea
Okay.
that
Yeah, it's a very good point, and I mean, at least from my experience, it's not that these books are bringing really lots of money in. It's more that they are bringing clients in, and I think this is really, really important to understand when writing a book. Yeah, because after all, it's really a big effort, right? It's not something that you would write in a day or two.
No. It's a discipline.
Definitely it is.
Discipline, okay.
It definitely does. Anyway, you mentioned this connection between ISO standards and strategies. So why do you think this is important? Why do you think it's let's say good for consultants?
Because I think that it's important not to just get the flag on the pole, okay, say that you are a certified company, but having an impact in the business, okay, and with quality, with ISO 9001, we can do it. I don't think that with other standards it's not so easy, okay? It's not so easy because they are more technical, but with quality. So we are looking about we're thinking about customers. So okay, and you start with what kind of customers, okay? I remember working many years ago with a general manager in a company, a manufacturing company, and he was asked. We were talking about customer satisfaction, and he was saying, "Oh, Carlos, should we aim for 100% customer satisfaction? We want that all customers are satisfied?" And at the time, I don't remember what was my answer to him, honestly. But now I know that no, we don't want to be we don't want to satisfy all customers unless all customers are target customers, okay? Because if you are working for a customer, or if you are trying to seduce to conquer customers that want design, that want innovation, they are not looking for low cost, okay, or low price, and it's different.
Okay, I understand. Why this connection between strategy and let's say quality management could be interesting for a company, but why is this interesting for a consultant? Why you as a consultant see this as an opportunity?
Because if you find companies that are looking for this kind of approach, okay, you are not competing with low cost consultants, okay, and you can, or the customers can see really the impact, because they, instead of using I call childish indicators, okay, like reduce the number of complaints, or like reduce the number of defects. No, you have indicators. Also, you have those indicators. You have also indicators like return of investment, like EBITDA. And so when you look at and you see return on capital, and you see the numbers. And I remember many years ago, one of the first books that I read about balance scorecard, the numbers that the authors mentioned, according to my experience, are really, really, really correct. So if you are working with a company that their business is low cost, in 1 year to 12 months, you see the result. If you are working with a company that the business is about customer service, okay, 2 years and a half, you see the result. Okay, if you are working with a company that is innovation, okay, 3-5 years is the time to see.
So you're saying that it's possible actually to connect quality management with directly these KPIs that are strategic, so to say, for a company, like a return on investment, these kind of things. Is this, if I understand well,
When I work with companies that way, we remove quality from the equation. We speak about the management system.
So quality management removes quality from equation. That's a good one.
Yeah, but it's
Okay.
true. It is true.
Anyway, I'm not sure if you know, but when I did my doctorate, actually, my thesis was around, what is the connection between strategy of a company and cybersecurity, right? So, it's
Yeah.
what you're speaking here about is not only related to quality or environmental; it's actually related also. It's I would say applicable to any of these other fields like cybersecurity. And I mean, to be honest, there is not much research on it. I was almost the only one who researched this kind of a connection, and still, it's not something that is mainstream. So it's still, at least in cybersecurity, it's not really becoming so. I would say obvious, but I would say it's something that's coming, and surely it's coming in I mean quality management as well.
May I
Mm-hmm.
add that perhaps it's because the market for 27001 consultancy is still open. Okay,
Uh-huh.
there are much more projects, but when the number of companies looking for certification or for implementing the ISMS starts to reduce or not growing so much,
Mm-hmm.
then comes the need for differentiation among consultants. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then comes that. Yeah.
Mhm. Let's maybe focus a little bit on this. So, how do you actually differentiate, other than this, let's say, strategy link? How do you differentiate with other consultants, other competitors? Why do actually clients choose you over some other competitor?
Mm. Uh, I think that I think, for example, in my last 3 or 4 projects, okay, what I realized is that, for example, they they found me, okay, through word of mouth,
Mm-hmm.
um, and because they were searching for a consultant with experience with the process approach, and it's
Uh
one
huh.
of the things that really love the process approach,
Yeah.
and it was from that. So they recognize, or someone spoke to them, recognizing that I was an expert in the process approach. Okay.
Okay, but did they actually found you? I mean, through a direct recommendation from other clients, or did they found you through, let's say, I don't know, LinkedIn or webinars or these books that you're writing? So, how did this word of mouth actually spread towards these clients of yours?
Now, it's like this. For example, for one of the cases, because of the book that I wrote, I really don't know if it was because of the book or because of the blog. Okay, some guys asked me to give some training to their customers about
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago. Okay, and we still get in touch, and from time to time they contacted me for providing training. And what happened was that they had some big customer looking for this kind of expertise in process approach, and they contacted me. But
Mm-hmm.
things, the origin was the book or the blog, and
Uh
from
huh.
there,
Uh huh.
okay,
Okay.
they yeah.
Yeah, so if understood well, if you want to be a successful consultant, you have to present your knowledge to the world, right? Through blogs and other books and other means of, let's say, communication and marketing, so to say.
Yeah, yeah. There are people. It's a very honest way. There are people that try to buy attention. Okay, and it's a very
Uh-huh.
honest way. But I don't know if because of my background in engineering, I don't like that. Okay, and it's not something that I'm happy with. Okay, but so what I try to do is to earn attention. How do I
Mm-hmm.
earn attention? By writing these things, writing these articles, or participating in some conferences that
Uh-huh.
people invite me. That's how I try to. For me, the best customer is a customer that is they already know that they have a problem and
Mm-hmm.
they need help for. So I don't want
Okay.
to be the guy that is trying to sell them that you need to do this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how much time do you actually spend on these, let's say, well, I wouldn't call them promotional activities, but let's say spreading the word. So is it like, I don't know, 20%, 30%, 50% of your time?
Mm, no, it's. I would say it's marginal. It's 10%, 15%, but it's a discipline. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For example, my blog. Okay, my blog is. I started in, I believe, September 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, from last years, I write every day. It's a kind of a discipline. Okay, it's like that marketing guy, Seth Godin. Every day I write something. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
sometimes it's something because of my professional work, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's about, for example, about other things, like, you know, that recently, that Draghi report on productivity in Europe. Okay, I wrote
Uh-huh.
about that.
Mm-hmm.
I write a lot about exports, productivity, so things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And where do you find the let's say the ideas?
Yeah.
Where do you find how do you actually conclude
See,
which topics to cover
every
in your
day,
blog?
except on weekends, every day, I wake up very early, and
Mm-hmm.
before starting to work, I do a 6 kilometer walk. Okay,
Wow,
and
that's
yeah,
good.
every
I do
day.
4. I don't make 6. I do 4.
Yeah, and I have a mini iPad, and
Uh-huh.
I read a book. Mm.
Uh-huh.
I read a book. I read books. I read newspapers. I read some blogs, and from there I get some ideas, things that interest me, and or things that I see and I don't agree with, or I yes, I agree a lot with, and I believe
Mm-hmm.
that those ideas need some resonance, and yeah, that's why I write about that. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, but are these, let's say, topics that you're reading more like business general, business in general, or are they focused specifically on quality and environmental, let's say, management?
For many years, I wrote, I would say, 60-70% on quality and environmental issues, and
Mm-hmm.
then the other on uh, general regarding economy, exports,
Uh-huh.
productivity. Okay. Uh, in the last years, what I did is I uh, have more topics on that on in the blog, and I started the blog in the site of my company, and
Mm-hmm.
there I have these very more
Uh-huh.
technical
Uh-huh.
topics. Okay.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Now, I assume that some of your clients are also giving recommendation to other potential clients. So this direct word of mouth. So
Yeah.
how do you actually get a client to be, let's say, so satisfied that he or she actually recommends you to someone else?
Um, First, I never ask them. Okay. I never
Okay.
ask them to do that. But okay, I believe that it's when I started this job as consultant, trainer, auditor, the main motivation was I like the topic. So I I studied. I remember in the 90s I read a lot of books on these topics. I still read, but
Mm-hmm.
in the 90s when I started, I read a lot of books, and it's something that provide us or give us confidence on the topics. Then I realized, for my surprise, that most of the questions or the difficulties of the customers are not so esoteric, are more like
Uh-huh.
they don't know, they are not confident, and so they ask very simple questions. But the fact that I worked before in the industry and don't make um, strange recommendations, like theoretical recommendations, and because of that experience, because of the way I approach the consulting work, perhaps because of that, and my knowledge, perhaps because of that. Okay. And yeah.
Okay, but I assume that that if your clients are actually recommending you, that this means that that you actually exceeded their expectations in some way, right? So that they're so satisfied with you that they're actually surprised on what they got from you. So how do you achieve actually this wow moment that they're really so satisfied that that actually they recommend you to someone else?
I think it's the relationship, okay, the
Mm-hmm.
relationship that we develop with them. I think is the kind of approach in terms of organization, in
Mm-hmm.
in terms of preparing my agendas, preparing the meetings,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then they see the results. Okay, then they see the results, and I try to be flexible. Sometimes I believe that it's sometimes is one of my mistakes. Sometimes I am too flexible, and
Mm-hmm.
because I try to adjust my approach to their approach. But I think it's the flexibility and organization, preparation,
Uh-huh.
and the relationship. Mm.
Okay. And do you have something, let's say, different in your approach when compared to other consultants?
Okay, I I I think I think um, the I think the I think the biggest difference is um, there are some topics that I think we don't need to waste time. So, for example, if we are implementing a management system, we will need to we'll need, for example, to have corrective actions. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't need to invent the wheel with corrective actions. I can have a procedure and present them, and from there, okay. But most of the work is customized. Okay, so I
Mm-hmm.
don't present them um, um, something like, okay, this is it, implement this and let's do it. No, what I try to do is to, what do you do? And okay, we do the flow chart. What do you do? We do
Mm-hmm.
the flow chart. Then we see, okay, we do the gap analysis. Is something missing here from 9001? Okay. And I believe it's that customization that some that
Mm-hmm.
they may like the approach because that way the changes are minimal. Okay, the changes that because for example in I don't know, in the commercial area most of the time everything is there. Okay, in purchasing there are something new. Sometimes they need
Mm-hmm.
to have a formal evaluation of suppliers. They don't have something formal, but okay, but we develop something that it's up to them. So I had some customers. I had all these years. I have perhaps I don't know 5 6 customers that tried with several consultants, tried
Uh-huh.
to be implement the system and be certified, and they couldn't get certified because then I saw why, because their system was very bureaucratic, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and with them I work with them trying to simplify things, and they were certified. So that that's also something that is different. So reducing the number of
Yeah.
papers. Yeah.
I like simplification. This is what this podcast is about. Yeah, how to how to make these complex topics really easy to understand and simple to use. So it's really a very important concept for any of these standards. Anyway, on your website, I noticed that you said Metanoia promoters of imperfect competition. Can you explain what this means?
Okay. Is about strategy. Okay,
Uh huh.
so because when you speak with or when you read textbooks on economics, they speak about perfect competition as the ideal. Okay,
Okay.
um, now I'm working with bigger companies, but in when I started with small and medium enterprises,
Mm-hmm.
and small and medium enterprises have no chance with perfect competition. Okay, because
Mm-hmm.
perfect competition means mature products, means um, volumes, and they cannot compete with the giants. And so the
Okay.
only way they have to compete is they going after imperfect competition. So
Uh-huh.
having a brand or having some differentiation in their product or in their service. That's why I I agree. It's my mantra is the imperfect competition is is the solution for small and medium enterprises, because if
Uh-huh.
they are trying to compete on price, they don't have any chance of winning. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if understood well, this is more about differentiation and finding some niches that are not covered, right?
Yeah. It's about
Okay.
exactly about that. Yeah.
But it seems to me this concept can also be applied to consultants, right? In their market, finding niches and
Exactly.
basically
Exactly.
differentiating, right? Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's very
Yeah.
interesting, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes um, it's uh, once I had a company, an accounting company, that I contacted them because they provide me work, and I contacted them and say, okay, now I'm moving from one town to another. Do you want to be my accounting firm to do the
Mm-hmm.
accounting of my company? And they said something like this: no, why not? Because we follow your ideas. You are not our target customer. We work with
Uh-huh.
export companies. So, and I
Uh-huh.
find it's yeah, I find it interesting because they were this okay. You look, it's something like this. I have this idea. Many companies think about customers as children.
Mm-hmm.
Children in the sense of you are passing in front of a school, you see the playground, and children are running, and in the recess are running, and you say, oh, look, the children. It's something that is collective, okay.
Uh-huh.
uh, but at the end of the day, we hope each one of those children will be at their home with their father and mother, and they will be a unique human being, okay,
Yeah,
for their
yeah.
father. And that's why I think that small and medium enterprises and consultants should look into their customers as unique, okay, to
Yeah,
try to
yeah.
find out what is really relevant for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of competition and this finding niches for consultants, what do you think? What would you recommend actually to other consultants? How can they find a niche which they can actually defend, where they will be the best in the market?
Hmm. So I believe that the most for someone that is starting, if they already have some kind of previous experience,
Mm-hmm.
like working. The example that I normally use is banking. So I will
Uh-huh.
never work with a banking industry because I don't know nothing about banks, okay, about
Mm-hmm.
how they work or regulation or something. But so when a consultant is starting, I think it's important to start in an area where they already know the business. They already
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
okay, because they are sleeping and they know much more than any other consultants that have no experience on that kind of business. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say start there. Okay, start
Mm-hmm.
there. um, Even I had, even before starting my even before starting working as a consultant, I I was working as quality manager in a company. They were certified. Then I moved to another company, and then they needed some help, and they asked me some help. And I was my home at the time was very near that company, and I went
Mm-hmm.
there. And so another possibility is, if you are starting as a consultant, perhaps your previous employer can be
Uh-huh.
of
Uh-huh.
help, because you know them, they know you, and if you left them in good terms, perhaps they you can help.
They, c-
Mhm.
they can be our
So
first client, maybe.
they can be our first client. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned to me earlier that you worked also with Japanese. Is this correct? If I understood well.
Yes, one of the chemical industry companies that I worked with was 51% Japanese. Was the first
Uh huh.
Japanese investment in Europe after the Second World War.
Ah,
So
okay.
around 1960 something, and I worked for 4 years in that company. So
Hmm.
one of the managers was Japanese, and there was a lot of Japanese coming there. Then I made some consulting work with a Japanese automotive supplier here
Hmm.
in my country. So yes, I worked with the Japanese.
Hmm.
When I was working there, I went to Japan sometimes
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
to see the mother company, the mothership.
Great. Okay, and what is the approach, let's say, to management of Japanese, compared to, let's say, Europe? Are there so many
Oh,
differences, and what can you learn
yeah.
from them?
So my first experience, or the first shock was, so I was a young chemical engineer, and I
Hmm.
arrived at the company, and they said, "Okay, we don't care." They didn't say like this, but we don't care. You are a chemical engineer. You are going to work as an operator, doing shifts
Hmm.
for, I don't know, perhaps 1 year, 9 months, 1 year. I don't. It was many years ago, and so they put us working as in the shop floor.
Hmm.
Um, I had another experience. So with that automotive company, where I worked very closely with the Japanese manager, and I remember we were looking into a part, for a prototype part for a car that I will not mention the name now, but yeah, but it was in 1990. Okay, um, and he was mad because, say, um, they the guys in Germany that are drawing this part know nothing about injection molding. They because the part was very
Wow.
they were very complex, and the part was very complex, and so the time for injection take a lot of more minutes, more time than than necessary. And so yeah,
Hmm.
it was my experience with them was, and with them I learned to love, those techniques that we still use when we speak about the quality improvement, things
Uh-huh.
like the Ichikawa diagram, so the fishbone, like the
Hmm.
Pareto diagram, like the flow chart, yes, too. And through them, I learned about Deming, so Deming and Duran, so big masters. I still have the books with me, big masters in the beginning of my life in quality. I
Yeah.
started my
Yeah.
life in quality. My approach was um, from the quality improvement, and then when the company needed someone to work in the 9001 implementation project, they picked me.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
how. Mm.
Deming actually worked in Japan, right? Because this
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
philosophy actually, and Japan was something like what, 20, 30 years, I would say, in front of Europe when it comes to this PDCA cycle and
yeah,
continuous improvements, these kind of things. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it
yeah,
was quite an experience, I guess, a learning experience for you when you
yeah,
worked there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Still, yeah. I think today still the biggest prize in excellence or in quality is the Deming Prize. So
Uh huh. Uh huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, you also mentioned earlier that you had, I would say, a bad experience with a consultant while you worked at these companies prior to your consulting career, and actually that this
Oh,
bad consultant was one of the reasons why you actually started consulting, right?
so yeah, so I knew nothing about ISO 9001, and my company um, picked me as the project manager,
Mm-hmm.
and they contracted a big company. If I tell you the name, you will know the name of the company, big company. And at the time, 1989, there was no cell phones. Okay, so we had a
Hard to imagine.
yeah. We had a library in my company. There was a library, and they were working in the library. Library was the meeting point, and they had a phone, no, the good old phones, and they were
Desk phone, yeah.
always phoning, always receiving. You are. I was thinking, uh, you are here. You should be working with us, not working for others. So even today, when I go to start working with a customer, my phone is always in flight mode.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, for example, when I'm expecting to receive, for example, an Amazon delivery, I say, this is just for receive, so just for sending a message
Yeah,
or
yeah.
answering to the guys for, but it's and so you know, my company was a chemical industry plant. We were manufacturing PVC, polyvinyl chloride, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and they presented us a proposal for our quality policy, okay,
Yeah.
and some years later, I realized that the quality policy that they were proposing us was exactly the same quality policy of Ford Motor Company. Okay,
Oh.
exactly the same. So,
Oof.
that's why. So no, I will not
Okay.
follow this.
Okay, let's speak a little bit about these bad consultants. Other than, let's say, them copying the documents between different clients, what would you say that characterizes a bad consultant?
Um, so Uh, sometimes I see some. I do audits, okay, and I see through the
Mm-hmm.
audits what I see. I sometimes I would say my cynical side comes up and says, okay, these guys are selling papers, okay, so they develop a lot of papers to show to the customer, you see, you are paying, but you are receiving this amount of paper, so this is a lot of work. So
Yeah.
yeah, so a lot of bureaucracy, it's what I see. I think, and I believe that in today's world, because the if you have many consultants that don't how to say don't differentiate themselves, and so
Mm-hmm.
they are working with winning projects with low prices, okay,
Low price. Yeah.
and so what they do, they put, so these are companies, and what they do, they put juniors coming
Mm-hmm.
out of school with no experience, and so it's not good because customers want someone that can provide them confidence. Hmm? and they
Confidence
don't
and
get
and.
and they don't get that, because you can be you they don't know the standard, you can be lying to them. Hmm?
Mm-hmm.
If you are very confident and you don't know the standard, you can lie to them and they accept what you say, okay. Or another thing that I see is that I call it, they already have a canned solution, and they say this is the only way, okay. I sometimes, when I speak about the job of the consultant, I say is something that opens minds, okay, can
Mm-hmm.
open minds, because they think that customers think that there's only one solution. I said, no. Look into the standard. If you look into the standard doesn't say how to do it. Okay, so we are free. There's a lot of degrees of freedom to how to do it. So yeah, I think it's that, because they have a a solution, and they want to provide that solution at all costs, because
Yeah.
they don't want to move away from the path that they are confident they're in that path.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because they either don't know anything else,
yeah,
or they simply don't want to, let's say, spend more time helping you out with some potential different solutions. So this is definitely, it's
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
bad consultant, I would say. Yeah.
yeah. Once I was auditing, uh, I don't know now the name. It's a company where people go there uh, to filtrate their blood. I don't know, remember now
Mm-hmm.
the name, but go there. They stay there for 2 3 hours, to filtrate their blood, because they have liver problems. The liver is not working well, and I was doing an audit, preparing an audit. They provide me their procedures, and in the middle of a procedure, I saw something that was taken out from an abattoir, okay, where they kill animals to
Uh-huh.
to to for people to eat later. Okay, so an abattoir. So and it's what because they were copy pasting and they forgot to remove that part from procedure. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
No, it's
yeah,
funny. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Anyway, good. So you actually are doing the consulting work, but you are also working as a certification auditor. You also work as a trainer. So how does this work of a trainer and certification auditor? How does this actually help your consulting work?
Um, so as a as an auditor, I as an auditor doesn't provide me more work, okay? But as an auditor, uh, it provides me confidence in what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing because I see what others are doing, and I
Uh-huh.
see, okay, good approach, or okay, no, I will not follow this approach, okay? But it provides me, so it's a kind of benchmarking, okay? Kind
And
of
the learning
bench
experience, right?
learning, yeah, yeah. No, about training. Yes, training provides. I'm invited by companies for training, for in-house training or for intercompany training, and yeah, and from time to time there are some attendees that then invite me to do some work there. Not so much implementation, but for example, quality improvement projects. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so like the last one that I did was improving efficiency,
Uh-huh.
reducing stoppages and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what you're saying is that basically training is actually open doors for you, right? It gives you more clients, access to more clients, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess also, I mean, from my experience, is that when you do training, you also have to prepare yourself. So you actually have to force yourself to learn about something if you want to present something to the students, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was for some years, for almost 10 years, I was invited to teach at the Catholic University here in my town to teach
Mm-hmm.
about environmental management. And
Uh-huh.
one of the things that I like the most is when you are behind or in front of the blackboard or the whiteboard, and
Yeah.
it's something it's some the experience is a kind of distillation. Everything that you learned is
Mm-hmm.
going to be put there, and you see people, and you are working with people that know nothing about, so their knowledge, so you have to they don't have experience, working experience. You have to to think about, do some gymnastics to make them to pass the message. And
Mm-hmm.
I like that, and because of that we need to use more examples, and I like that because I think that with examples people can see much better. And yes, and as you said, it sometimes I find different approaches when I'm preparing this training, because I I'm talking about so for example about clause 4.2 and 4.1, so about
Mm-hmm.
context and interested parties and the
Yeah.
relationship with risks. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm doing training, I already found different approaches, okay, that I didn't was not using as a consultant, but oh, this is a different a possibility. Okay, let's develop. Let's invest in this. So yeah, it's a learning experience for us too. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Great. So, how did this doing consulting actually back in the 1990s or 2000s? How is it different from doing consulting nowadays?
Oh, I think I think now it's more difficult than 30 years ago. You know, because um, in my country, 30 years ago, when a company wanted to implement a management system, they would say, okay, I would say to them, okay, you need someone to be the project manager.
Mm-hmm.
I will need 75, 80% of the time of that person for the project, because you want to implement this in 1 year or 1 year or 14 months or something like that. So, okay. Um, and there was no problem. Now they would say, no, Carlos, we cannot give you someone with 80% of the time. So we can provide you someone with 40%, 50%.
Mm-hmm.
So people are in more stress, more demanded. So
Yeah.
it's more difficult. I believe it's, and in the whole company, it's like that. So in the whole company, so there are no slack.
Oh
And so
yeah.
it's much
Okay.
more difficult.
Okay, from the resource point of view, yeah, definitely. But okay, but I mean, the technology has changed. I mean,
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
there
yeah,
were no cell phones, right, back
yeah,
then,
yeah, yeah,
almost no computers back then.
yeah,
So, from this point of view, collaboration point of view, how does this really change the consulting
yeah,
business
yeah.
and
So, yeah, for example, today, this is my third meeting, okay, like
mhm.
this, okay. So last week I worked for 3 days, not 3 days, but I had three meetings with a customer, um, 300 kilometers away from my office, um, in through Zoom or Teams or yeah, So that's a big difference, okay? Yeah, that's a big difference. So more and more we are doing remote work,
Mhm.
um, and when we are also using these kind of technologies like uh, some of those technologies I learned from you, like Slack, like Notion, and yeah, and they are fantastic for this kind of
Oh
job
yeah,
for
yeah,
collaborative work. They are fantastic.
definitely
Yeah,
there.
almost no emails needed.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I do a webinar on this and explain for a full hour how to use these tools. Yeah. Okay, now what do you see? What do you think? How the consulting business will change in the next, let's say, 10 to 15 years?
So I think that again, low cost consultants will feel the menace, let us say so, feel the threat from AI. Okay,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
yeah, AI. But I always remember, I use it a lot of time. A saying from Kasparov, Gary Kasparov, the chess player. He,
Yep.
I read. I don't know if it is true, but it's in my mind. I read something like he said, uh, if a fantastic human chess player plays against Deep Blue wins. But if a normal human plays help with a computer plays against Deep Blue, the human team will win. So I
Uh-huh,
believe
uh-huh.
that consultants that do some kind of differentiation and work
Mm-hmm.
together with AI, they continue to work as consultants, because there's the human side, the human experience. There's the there's the hallucination from AI also. Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
um, that team, AI and consultants, can make a difference. I believe, can make a
Yeah, yeah,
difference.
yeah.
You can provide more work in less time. Um, you can, yeah, you can work, or you can develop your work based on initial information from AI, yeah,
Yeah,
and do
yeah.
something more.
And you can definitely perform a better analysis, right? You can actually summarize much more information in less time, and then you can make some conclusions. And these conclusions actually have to be made by a consultant or by a human being, right? To make actually some strategic
Yeah.
insight. So I don't believe really this that AI will be able to do this. In the next 10 to 15 years, but this kind of summarization, the analysis, is definitely something AI can help a lot. This
Hmm.
is definitely a
Yeah.
way to go. Yeah.
Yeah. This,
Yep.
and also again, this remote approach, I think
Mm-hmm.
will be more and more used. And there's that webinar on the remote audits that I say, and it's really true. if you are you are studying a document through Teams or Zoom, it's more effective than if you are reading the document with people speaking at your side and in on site. It's it still blows my mind that it's okay. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's with this thought, let's draw this episode to its end. So maybe just for the end, what would you say could be, let's say, top 3 things that consultants should be doing, and top 3 things that consultants should not be doing, just to kind of summarize, what makes a successful and unsuccessful consultant?
Okay. I can say I can use my experiences. First, study. Okay, and so try to be an expert in the topic that you are helping others with. So study. Yeah. Then the other would be look into these tools that can help in your work. So tools that can make the collaborative work more easier. Yeah. I think it's and of course do something to earn attention. Okay. I know
Promote, yeah.
consultants. Yeah, I know consultants that pay for someone, for some companies doing cold calling and so and so. So if you are happy with that, go ahead with that. Okay. I think it's important to try to earn attention. So show that you are an expert with your ideas, with your opinions, with your work. So promotion is important. So about what not to do, so that's more difficult. I would say
don't go with the low cost.
don't go with low cost. You can only go with low cost when you live at your parents' house or something like that, because when you have to pay the bills, okay, and when you need to invest in your education. So for example, I didn't mention before, but in my first years I went to the United States. I was a member of the American Society for Quality. I went there for the annual conventions and for some ISO 9001 special conventions. I went there 6 or 7 times, and I found it very, very useful because the speakers were very open. They gave a lot of information. It was fantastic. So you need to invest in your education. So don't go low cost, or run away from low cost as soon as possible. Okay.
Yeah.
And don't be rigid in your approach. So try to be flexible. Try to listen to the others, to the customer. I think that it's those two that, and respect the time that the customer is paying you, and respect the time that the customer is paying you. Yeah.
Okay, great. These are really great tips, and let's bring this conversation to the end. So these are really great insights, and I think lots of consultant, cybersecurity and non-cybersecurity consultants can learn a lot, from these insights. And thanks, Carlos. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Oh, thank you. I hope I could provide some ideas for your audience. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for making it this far in today's episode of Secure and Simple podcast. Here's some useful info for consultants and other professionals who do cybersecurity governance and compliance for a living. On Advisera website, you can check out various tools that can help your business. For example, Conformia software enables you to streamline and scale ISO 27001 implementation and maintenance for your clients. white label documentation toolkits for NIS2, DORA, ISO 27001 and other ISO standards enable you to create all the required documents for your clients. Accredited lead auditor and lead implementer courses for various standards and frameworks enable you to show your expertise to potential clients. And a learning management system called Company Training Academy with numerous videos for NIS2, DORA, ISO 27001 and other frameworks enable you to organize training and awareness programs for your clients' workforce. Check out the links in the description below for more information. If you like this podcast, please give it a thumbs up. It helps us with better ranking, and I would also appreciate if you share it with your colleagues. That's it for today. Stay safe.